you ever had a strange feeling of excitement? A mixture of curiosity, surprise, and awe? Coming from where I'm from, I would call and see this as a blessing. After graduating for the second time in 2 years, I was on my road to success and plowing toward greatness.
The day I've been waiting for had finally arrived. My first tour of duty was a long one, to say the least. I arrived at the firehouse at 0500 hours. I relieved the layout man and went over the piece with the wagon master. While performing our daily cleanup, our first call came in. We didn't get a chance to eat. The calls kept rolling in. In total, we ran 23 calls. This included a car fire at 1 a.m. I would learn to drink plenty of water, eat oatmeal, and have trail mix and peanut butter jelly sandwiches on deck for peak hours. This was just a taste of what was to come. I would see and learn many things in the coming months. The call volume offered a wide range of fire and EMS calls that were useful in gaining experience. Every tour of duty was different. This is the pace I needed, having no prior firefighting or EMS experience. As a probationary firefighter EMT, we had monthly tests. The tests were designed to make sure we were familiar with tools and appliances, pump and truck operations, box alarm running routes, and that we were familiar with our battalion and adjacent battalion firehouses. In total, we took 7 tests. On average, I scored low 90s. My wagon driver would always push me to do better. I wouldn't realize what and why he was doing what he was doing until many years later. Upon completion of my probationary period, I was detailed to Ambulance 30 for 6 months. A former class member and I were given our very own EMS unit for 24 hours. We were both top of our class, him being closer to 1 and me being closer to 5, yet we still complimented each other on the unit. We were two 20-year-old young men trained to serve the citizens of Washington, D.C. On one of my off days, my partner was visiting the firehouse and called and told me I was being transferred to Engine 5. I took it as a joke, but he wasn't playing. I rushed to Engine 30 to see the transfer list, and it was so. The next tour of duty, I asked the chief why I was being transferred. He stated I was the lowest man in the company. The following tour of duty, I was involuntarily transferred to Engine 5. I was crushed. My new life in the 5th Battalion was very discouraging. I went from gaining much needed experience to maybe 10 calls a month. This was ideal for a person who was about to retire or had no interest in the job, but to me, it was devastating. I only had a year and a half on the job. I quickly put in transfer requests but was denied. At that point, I accepted I would be at Engine 5 and decided to make the best of it. At Engine 5, I had a lot of time on my hands. This is when I dedicated myself to studying department manuals. My former wagon master embedded in me to stay in the books. I knew I wouldn't be running calls and gaining much hands-on experience, but I always had to be ready. I requested drills and we would practice different scenarios in the firehouse. I also had to learn the 5th Battalion's area. Engine 5 was a slower E1 wagon. I found it easier to handle than Engine 8's 2003 Pierce. A plus about being at Engine 5, I was able to get more driving time. Instead of having to drive my personal vehicle to learn the district like I did at Engine 8, I was able to drive Engine 5 every shift because of the lower call volume. This is when I fell in love with driving the engine. Fall of 2006, I enrolled in school for television production. I took studio, field, lighting, and audio classes. I earned my certifications and focused mainly on producing music and promo videos for local artists. I would also fall in love with photography. One tour of duty while in the firehouse, my lieutenant showed me a few images he had taken. I was intrigued by the images and asked what kind of camera he was using. I looked into purchasing one, but $700 wasn't in my budget. I decided to get a point-and-shoot camera to test the waters. Photography became a way of escaping reality by capturing the beauties of life. Photography encouraged me to walk and see more land. A few months after purchasing my first point-and-shoot, the lens opened while in my running coat on the call. The lens was done for, so I decided to purchase my first DSLR. I was adapting to Engine 5. It was turning out to be a good fit. The members of Engine 5 loved the energy and the youth I brought to the firehouse. I didn't gain much firefighting or EMS experience, but I did learn many life lessons from the good people I was around. I was able to focus on school. I also gained a hobby in photography and found a way to escape the trauma of seeing death and gore. Photography became my way of escaping reality by capturing the beauties of life. Things were going well when one day I received a phone call. The 5th Battalion chief asked me would I like to be transferred to Engine 7. I was given the option to volunteer or be involuntarily transferred. Nobody else wanted to go to Engine 7, so I accepted the transfer. In 2007, I was reassigned to Engine Company 7, Platoon 2. The pace of this firehouse was not too slow and not too fast. It was a great way for me to get back into the swing of things. I once again had to learn running routes and building layouts. What my wagon master had instilled in me was showing. I treated every new firehouse like a probationary period. I was getting paid to learn. My high school prayer had been answered. In June 2009, the wagon master at Engine 7 was set to retire. This meant a tech position was going to be available. This was a beautiful thing because I had been studying since day one. I was overconfident and studied light though. I would go on to fail the first test. To my luck, no one else passed the test. This opened the exam to the rest of the house. Later that evening, I received news that I was going to be a father. I now had competition and motivation. I learned from my past mistake and didn't take it lightly. As suspected, the competition and I were only ones to pass the in-house exam. We were ready for the training school portion of the test, but just when things seemed sunny, a storm was headed this way.